Hi, I'm Sonia, and this is Dialogues with Myself, a humorous and philosophical podcast about my life and anime. Today I want to talk about frieren, homebody life, iyashikei, and my own pace of life. I spend most of my time like Shrek in his swamp or like Squidward at home. These are my favorite two moods. And recently I asked my person if I were an anime, which one would I be? And he said I would be frieren. His answer felt good for me. So what is frieren and what does it have to do with today's podcast? Life is different for everyone. Some people have a lot happening all the time and they need that. In anime terms, that's basically a genre like battle shounen or a fantasy adventure. Battle shounen is historically targeted at boys under 18, and the main character is constantly growing, constantly overcoming something. Not a single day without a challenge. And some people's lives genuinely look like that. Always active, always moving. Difficulties are just part of the deal. I would definitely not be a shonen if I were a title. That tempo is too much for me. I like my pace and I like my steadiness. And there's also genre slice of life, basically the opposite of shonen. It is about everyday lives. The focus is living through regular things. And then there's a subtype of slice of life called iyashikei, which in Japanese means healing system. It is healing anime, the kind designed to calm your mind through atmosphere and depths. It is cozy anime essentially, and frieren feels partially iyashikei for me. What makes frieren unique is that it blends things. There's a fantasy adventure, there's action, but that's not really the main focus. At the same time, it has that iyashikei quality. Frieren takes place in a fantasy world, elves, demons, dwarfs, the whole thing, and Frieren herself is a 1,000-year-old elven mage. She and her party, the hero Himmel, the dwarf Eisen, the priest Heiter, defeated the demon king. 10 years of traveling, final victory, everyone goes home.
王様が広場に僕たちの彫像を作ってくれるそうだ。
時は銅貨10枚しかくれなかったくせに。
まあまあフリーレン、こうしてただ酒も飲めるわけですし。
For the humans, for Heiter and for Himmel, the journey was basically their whole life. But for Frieren, it was just 1% of her existence. So the title is a fantasy adventure that's already over by the time the story begins. Everything that follows is the aftermath. They part ways, and she says, let's meet again in 50 years. Because for her, that's basically like tomorrow.
50年後、もっと綺麗に見える場所知ってるから案内するよ。何？
いや、なんでもない。そうだな。
And she comes back 50 years later. Himmel is an old man, and then he dies. That's the first time Frieren cries, and I think not from grief exactly, but from the delayed realization that she spent 10 years with him but never really got to know him. She just didn't notice that time worked differently for him.
フリーレン、君のこの先の人生は僕たちには想像もできないほど長いものになるんだろうね。
そうかもね。
So after that, she sets off again, not to defeat another demon king, but to understand humans, what they are, why they disappear so fast, and why that matters. Глотну водички. So she travels through the same places with new companions, partly chasing a legend that there is somewhere you can go to speak with the souls of the dead, to speak with Himmel again. She starts this whole journey even though she's not entirely sure that it's real. What makes frieren feel close to me is that there's no hierarchy between fighting a demon and searching for blue moon wheat. It is Himmel's favorite flowers. Both things matters equally to frieren and to the title as a whole. Usually in anime, side quests like that are just filler. You just sit there waiting for them to end. But frieren alternates a few episodes fighting a demon king, a few episodes walking between villages searching for things, and somehow both feel equally good, equally worth your time. The title is drawn so well that you find yourself thinking, yeah, I'm okay with either. And my life is kind structured the same way. I love that sometimes something big happens, like traveling through Japan, seeing new places, but my everyday life at home matters just as much to me. I am a big homebody. I work from home. I even have a treadmill here. I love that routine. I love that steadiness. And there's a lot of anime out there that's essentially about routine, where you watch it and you're interested, not bored. Frieren isn't unique in that sense, but for me, it is the best version of this idea, where again, defeating the Demon King and finding a spell to see through clothes are equally important events. And it is the same in my life. Last winter we were traveling in Asia. Over course of a month and a half, a guy broke into our villa in Bali at night trying to rob us, and then we left for Bangkok because apparently that's calmer option. And while we were there, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar close enough that our building started shaking badly. And if my life consisted only of things like that, I will lose my mind. I just don't have that much energy for the world. I wouldn't want to spend it all on surviving things. I'm okay with challenges in moderate amounts, but not as a lifestyle. And even when I travel, same logic. I love being a homebody, but the idea that the world is big matters to me too, so I do make myself go out, and I make every outing better with one specific thought. For example, in Japan, you walk a lot more than usual, and every single walk I made more enjoyable by looking at something beautiful and thinking, this is lovely, but it's going to be even lovelier when I get home, lie down, and rest. And somehow that thought made the place even more beautiful. Every walk in Japan I enjoyed partly by enjoying the way back, thinking about how I'd stop at 7-Eleven, grab some desserts, because Japan has the best desserts in the world, lie down, eat them, and think, whoa, I'm tired. Hope tomorrow I'm less tired. That is how I appreciate things. Sometimes when you spend a lot of time at home, it feels like life is boring, but that's not true, because the most important thing is to have an inner journey. This is a philosophical podcast, by the way. External density of events doesn't equal a big internal path. What matters is growing on the inside, because I can be at home and have a lot happening. Lately, I've been at home a lot, but I learned how to build a proper podcast setup. Before that, I filmed everything on my iPhone's front camera. Now I use an actual camera, and the iPhone is now where it belongs, near someone whose pinky finger was slowly deformed from years of holding it. One more thing I love the idea of choosing something and choosing it exactly because there are so many alternatives. There's a million versions of everything. And that's exactly what makes choosing the same thing so satisfying for me. I choose to stay home because I know I could go out. If home were my only option, it would feel like a trap, not a choice. And one more example, I've been eating Kinder chocolate for decades. It's my favorite reward and the best brain food for programming. I make coffee, put the Kinder in fridge because I like cold chocolate, and that's been my system for years. Not because there's no other chocolate, but because I choose this one. Same with my friends. Most of them are people I've known since school, not because there's no other people in the world, but just because I choose these ones, the ones I chose back then, and I still choose them now. And the same logic from a person. There's a million other guys out there, but I choose him, not because there's no one else left. That idea doesn't fit well with me at all, but because I choose him. Same with titles. There are a billion of them, and honestly, that makes me happy. The more options exist, the more I enjoy choosing one. I don't know if I'm getting this across, but what drives me is not having fewer options. It is choosing one thing out of a billion. So the billion should keep growing and I'll keep choosing the same thing. Of course, I can change my mind, that's allowed, but the principle stands. The more alternatives, the more satisfying it is to pick one. But let's get back to the steady pace of things. Don't expect bread and circuses from yourself if that is not you. If you know you're a slice of life person, own it. Or if you know you're the kind of title that loves to drag things out, revisit the past, then say that too. I'm a shounen with 1,000 episodes. Half of them filler, a third of them flashbacks. And no shames. Because I think even if you choose a slow, easy routine, life itself is not going to let you just float through forever. Something will always come along that requires actual effort. That is the hardest and somehow also nicest part of my life. No matter how much I try to keep things chill, life will always find a way to point out where I need to work. So I don't need to build extra ones. But if you do decide to build a challenge for yourself, just make it one that doesn't make you want to disappear. Have a little mercy of yourself. And one more thing before I move on, because I want to make sure no one misreads what I just said. A slow, steady life and a stopped life are not the same thing. Choosing to do nothing, I won't judge, but it's probably not the boldest move. That is how you can lose the potential of your life. My idea is that some people need chaos and moment to grow, others need quiet, like me. Both are valid, but the key word is grow. I'll give you an example from yesterday. I came up with an idea for an app and immediately started building it. So yes, I am iyashikei person, but apparently a very fast one when it matters. This podcast doesn't endorse stopping. It endorses moving at your own pace. Slow is fine, so grow on the inside and fight your inner enemies because that's where the real work happens. I have a lot of inner enemies. My enemies are doubts, overthinking, and general low energy mode, but I fight them just at my own steady pace. And this, by the way, is exactly why school was never really my thing. In school, you're placed in situations no adult would ever tolerate, in my opinion. I had to spend all my energy in school playing social games, just keeping up with the hierarchies and dynamics, because you're locked in for years with random people and you have no idea there's another world out there you can't quit. And to make it easier, you need an adult who explains to you that this isn't real life. So I was just out there doing social maneuvering full time. For me, school is a natural selection. It selects for whoever socially earlier or whoever is more aggressive. And if your development is like mine, fast on inside but requiring external quiet and space, it is hell on earth because now I have an inner world. I built it in silence. It got stronger, and now when I walk into large social spaces full of people, I carry that world with myself, and it makes it easy to exist there even as an introvert. So when you're an adult, you have that healing thought: the world is big and there is a place in it for you. If you haven't found it in the first 50 places, you'll find it in the 51st. Thanks God. This is a healing podcast after all. And you can always start differently. That's how it was for me with programming, for instance. I absorb information badly when reading documentation or when it's explained by one specific person, and it really helps to me know that you can find the same information in a different way. I'd find a video where someone explains the same thing differently and it works for me. So it's really important to know if something isn't working for you, just find a version where it's explained in other way. Anyway, back to anime. One last title and then we're done for today. Since I mentioned iyashikei, here's my little discovery. Hotel Apocalypse, only 12 episodes, and it is post-apocalyptic iyashikei. The year is 2057. An unknown plague makes the air on Earth unbreathable. Humans board ships and fly off into space. The planet is empty. 100 years pass. Tokyo gets swallowed by nature, and in the middle of all of it, a hotel in Ginza is still standing, still running. The robot staff opens the doors every day, every morning, sets the tables, cleans the rooms, even though no one has walked through doors in a century. They are waiting for the guests, and then, after all the time, the first guest arrives. Not human, but an alien. And slowly things begin to move. New aliens visit the hotel. This anime isn't about the end of the world. It is about continuing to do your thing even when no one is watching. About loyalty and about what work means and about what it means to know someone who might never come back. It's funny and it's sad, and that combination is honestly our strongest quality. And the best example of that is episode 9. There's a wedding on the roof of the hotel. Ponka is getting married. Ponka, she is an alien who once flew and just kind of never left. Her whole family ended up staying. They look like alien tanuki. But her grandmother, her sweet little grandma, doesn't make it to the wedding because she dies right before it. And before she died, she gave Yachiyo. Yachiyo is the robot hotel manager, the main character, a letter which one final request: hold the wedding and the funeral on the same day. So there's a situation. There's a coffin right behind the newlyweds and grandma inside. That was her wish.
本日は私たちの結婚葬儀披露宴にご出席いただきましてありがとうございます。
And you're watching this and you don't know what to do with yourself. Laugh or cry, joy and grief at the same table, and life is like that too. Grief and happiness tend to sit pretty close together. So this anime doesn't pretend otherwise, and neither like frieren actually. Both of them are meta-ironic in that way. I really recommend it. 12 episodes. That is all for today. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and stay yourself. Дати байо.